Fairs hosts over 300 career fairs a year nationwide. The events are free and give you the perfect chance to meet some of the top employers in your area face to face. To find the nearest career fair to you, visit ncfairs.com. Again, that's ncfairs.com. What are you waiting for?
You're listening to ESQ Resource Radio on the Bets on Media Network.
Welcome to the ESQ Resource Radio Show. I'm your host, Frank Lopo, and we've got some time this morning, and we're going to talk, last couple of shows we've talked about credit. Today we're going to talk a little bit about debt, and then about 20 minutes from now we're going to have a guest, Ruth Carter, who's going to join us, and she's going to be talking about social media law and staying out of trouble online, which I think is relevant to all of us in today's world, and how we do some things, and she'll provide some good insight, as we always do, in looking through the what we do here on the ESQ Resource Radio Show, of always continually with a mantra of, if you don't know, go seek counsel to figure out where you're going with this stuff. So I think she'll be very relevant to what we're talking about. What I'd like to talk to you about today is what we do at Strafacci Law. And at Strafacci Law, we're a debt workout law firm. And what that means is, as opposed to a bankruptcy, that we negotiate with the creditors to get debt settled for pennies on a dollar. And we're able to work that out over a 3-year period of time, because most of our clients are cash poor. Because the reality is that we don't look at putting ourselves in debt as a plan. We're always looking at, when we get into debt, as this is a necessary evil, and I'm continually working hard to pay all this debt back. What most of us don't understand is the game is stacked against you. It's not there for you to win. Will the bank take your money, and do they want to be paid in full? The answer is yes. But they would rather have you continue to be a slave to your debt and pay them over a longer period of time, because that puts more money in their pocket. And here's a simple example we give to a lot of our clients, just to give them a perspective on the situation. So you have $30,000 in credit card debt at 19% interest. Making the minimum payment, how long does that take you to pay off? And the answer is generally given by most people as forever. Never I'll pay it off. And pretty close. It takes you 59 years and 4 months to pay off, making the minimum payment. And where the crime is, as I say, is the fact that you borrowed $30,000, but over that 59 years and 4 months, you've paid the bank back $110,000. And, in a capitalist economy, who doesn't want that to be their business model? Because the bank has hundreds of thousands of people in that situation where they're paying them back a minimum payment over time. And in Arizona and some other states, we always had the luxury of refinancing our mortgages to pay off our credit card debt. Didn't change our lifestyle. We just were able to, because our values increased by tens of thousands of dollars. We rack up $30,000 in debt, and we may be 2-3 years to where we could refinance, pay that off, and now we're anew again. We didn't change any of our habits. And so what happens is, when you have $30,000 of available credit, we as consumers tend to spend it. Happens all the time. It's just like when you make $100,000 a year, and at the end of the year you have, $5,000 or $6,000 in savings, because you spent $100,000 or $95,000. So we're a consuming society. So everything is tailored towards that. Doesn't make it good or bad, but the people that are successful are the ones who we continually talk in terms of having a budget. And here's one of my philosophies with having a budget. In most cases, the first line in the statement of your bills you pay every month is generally your mortgage payment or your rent payment, because we need a place to live. I always suggest to our clients that you take that, and the first line is to pay Frank Lopo. And you put your name on it, because once you put your name on it, now you make it personal. what we've been taught as consumers and have been educated that you pay all your bills, and at the end of the month you have money available to put into savings, or you put a line item on your bills as savings. And it becomes very easy to bypass that. It becomes very easy to overlook that. But if you put your name on it and you make it the first payment you make every month, because you're the one doing all the work, pay yourself. Because that's essentially what you got to start doing in order to save money. Because here's a crazy thing. The dynamic of savings psychologically works the same as a dynamic of spending. And I always tell our clients, start small, start with something you can afford. Don't go from a 0 to 100. Go from 0 to 25. Start with $25 a month. Start with $50 a month. Something that you can reasonably successfully do continually. That's not going to put a hinder into your lifestyle, because then you start playing mental tricks with yourself when you do those things, and you say, I'll just use my debit card today and won't use it tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes, you use it again. You just can't escape it.
Never.
But if you put your name on it, here's what happens. So the first month you put your name on it, Frank Lupo, $25. Second month, Frank Lupo, $25. Third month, Frank Lupo, $25. Fourth month, Frank Lupo, $25. So now you look at that and think, okay, I got $100 in savings for Frank Lupo. Frank Lupo needs a raise. This is BS. I can't believe this is all he's getting. He needs to get paid $50 a month. And you start that cycle. And as you start seeing that money starting to build, because then again, when you have $100, $200, $300, and you need to go buy shoes or get a new outfit or take some time off, and you spend the money you have in savings versus putting on a credit card, you're money ahead.
Right.
And most people, again, we haven't been taught to do that. We've been taught to use our savings as our credit card balance. And in most cases, what that sadly becomes is a debit card that you're paying interest on. Because I can't tell you how many people come into our office and they make their monthly payment of $250 on their credit card, and then they spend $75. Then they make another monthly payment of $250, and they spend $75. And they never get ahead of it, and it just keeps building and building and building, and that's how you end up with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 of credit card debt. It's because it's a slow burn, and it's really very similar to going to a casino. That everything is set up, no windows, a lot of lights, air conditioning, free booze. They just make it very comfortable. Why would you leave?
No clocks.
Right.
Yeah.
Why would you leave? It's great. And then, you're winning a couple $100 here and there, and you're giving back a couple $100 here and there. And if you have the fortitude to win and walk away, more power to you. But they know in most cases
It's not the case.
it builds and builds and builds, and then you walk over the ATM machine, get into the $100. Because the ATM machine always pays.
Yeah.
And you're battling.
Until it says insignificant funds.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have any more money.
Yeah.
Damn. Guess I'm done gambling.
Yeah.
And that's the same with your credit card. I'm to my limit, so I guess I'm done spending. And that's when we learn the lesson of I got to fix this. That I can't use my credit card anymore, so now I've got to fix it. When, again, because it's just one of those things that lulls you to sleep, because that's, when I tell people that we have clients with $150,000, $170,000 of credit card debt, it literally will take people's breath away when they hear that number of how the heck does that happen? And it happens just like going to a casino. It just happens over time, and it happens with good sensibilities, but life happens. You plan to borrow this $40,000 to build your business up, get things going, and then something happens. You lose a big client. Things just happen, and you're scrambling, and you're rebuilding, and you're trying to always fix it. And it's tough to make a successful business when you're lugging around a $170,000 anchor. It's tough to move forward. It's tough not to think about that top of mind, because it is tough. So at Strafaci Law, what we do is provide a free consultation for you to come in, sit down with us. We'll go over what options are available to you, because we know, frankly, we may not be your very best option. And we never want to enroll a client for the fulfillment of us getting a new client. It's really all about getting clients that are committed to the program and can make it work, and the outcome is going to be successful for both of us. Because if you can qualify for a Chapter 7, we wholeheartedly agree that's what you should do. Because when you have $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 of debt, it's about recovering and getting out of the debt. It's not about not damaging your credit, because the only alternative you have to not damage your credit, pay your bills on time and pay them in full. Anything other than that is going to impact your credit negatively. So you want to minimize that and get yourself in a position as quickly as possible to be back in the credit world. And not to abuse it again, but to learn a lesson and move on in life. And we really try to promote that and get people to understand that as best we can. I can give you some great examples of some of our successes, and I can tell you that every client who's enrolled with us has successfully so far completed the program. If for whatever reason they haven't completed the program, here's what happens. When they originally signed up with us, they didn't qualify for bankruptcy. And when I say bankruptcy, I'm always talking about Chapter 7. But 6 months into it, 8 months into it, someone lost a job, something happened, now they now do qualify, and as we tell every client, so if 8 months prior bankruptcy made sense, why wouldn't it make sense 8 months from now? And if it does, we certainly move them over to a bankruptcy attorney that can help them and get them through the process. And that's really been the only reason somebody's dropped out of our program, is now bankruptcy makes better sense to them, and it's better for their situation, not our situation. But we recently had a success story with a client who enrolled September of 2012. It's now September 2014. He enrolled $62,000 of debt, and we got all $62,000 settled for $12,000.
Wow.
Which is 20 cents on a dollar. And he is done with the program 12 months in advance.
Nice.
Very nice. And he's extremely happy with the process and the program and how things have worked out. And now he's in a position of getting his credit rebuilt and moving on with his life. And we're extremely excited about that. I did get a call this week from a lady that starts out the call just like this, and it's pretty amazing. Let me tell you about my week so far, Frank. On Monday, I was told my mother passed away.
Oh.
On Tuesday, I was told I have to go through 6 months worth of chemotherapy. And today is Wednesday, and I was just speaking with a company telling me that I owed them $1,400, and that if I didn't pay this immediately, that they were going to issue a warrant for my arrest and have the police come and pick me up. And she was just beside herself with, this can't happen. They can't come and get me. And the reality is they cannot. And they've broken several laws under the Fair Credit Protections Practices Act in making that statement. And when you violate a Fair Credit Protections Practices Act law, it's a $1,000 fine per violation. And as we tell our clients, this isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card, but it certainly gives us leverage.
Yeah.
And fortunately for us, she said she had the call recorded of them threatening to do that. Because anytime a debt collector calls you, they cannot threaten you as a part of trying to get their money to be paid. All they can do is talk with you, tell you that this debt is owed and that it needs to be paid, and then try to figure out terms that can be acceptable to both parties to get it paid back. But as most companies are a little overzealous, and as those collection people get paid on an incentive, they tend to push the limits a little bit, and they're very good at bullying people. And if you always notice, when they call you, they will say that this call is being recorded for collections purposes, or collections or training purposes. We have to inform you of that by law. But it's always crazy when you say, hey, why don't you play back that recording of our last conversation when I told you I couldn't pay you? And they seem to say, well, we don't have that recorded. Well, then why do you tell me you're recording the call if you don't have it recorded? Because you do have it recorded. It's just now an inconvenience for you because really, if I didn't have the money yesterday and I didn't have the money 2 weeks ago, I was just waiting for you to call me so I can pay you. Is probably, I can't imagine that ever happening for those people. That's the answer they get. Oh, thank goodness you called.
I was about ready to. I was just looking for your number.
That's right. Just doesn't happen that way. So you do have rights as a consumer, and you just need to be aware of them, and you don't need to try to engage in a sword fight. You just really need to simply state your case. And if you find you're getting nowhere with that person you're talking with, you can always acquiesce and say, look, it's obvious you don't understand what I'm telling you because I don't have the money. I don't foresee having the money in the future. If you can give me some time and maybe call me back in 30 days, I would certainly pick up my phone and have this discussion with you again and let you know my situation. Never seems to happen that way.
Do you see that a lot with collections and your clients and stuff like that, where they're getting, I don't want to say threatening calls, but I mean,
No, the good news is once you let them know that you have representation, the game changes completely. Once they know Strafacci Law is representing them, anytime they talk to us, they're not violating those laws.
Okay.
Because they know that as an attorney, Mark will certainly take great pride in the fact, oh, this is like a winner here. Thank you very much. Say that again. So they mind their P's and Q's when they're dealing with us.
Right.
The advantage we give you is that, especially if it goes to a third party, they only get one shot at you. Once you inform them you have representation, again, by law and the Fair Credit Protections Practices Act, they can no longer contact you. They have to work through us.
Okay.
But again, consumers aren't aware of those things in the sense of, it is frustrating, and they'll say, well, they're calling me at work. Well, again, that's a violation. They cannot call you at your place of employment.
And how does that work exactly? So let's just say if I said, okay, I have Strafacci Law representing me or whatnot. At that time, then do they? And I'm not sure how this works, so forgive me for the ignorant question. But do I give them your contact information, or is that something that you guys, I give them, or I give you their contact information, and then the Mark handles it, or how does that work?
All the above. What happens generally is we tell a client, here's how we advise them, that once you sign up with us, after a 3-day right of rescission passes, we send out notification to all your creditors we now represent you. If it's Chase Bank that you owe the money to and Chase still has the debt, they have every right to continue to contact you. What we advise our clients is all you have to do is tell them, I'm represented by Strafacci Law, please contact them. And Chase will tell you, well, we'd rather talk to you. Because obviously they'd rather deal with you because they have more leverage with you.
Right.
Because they want to make it personal with you. For us, it's just business. So you don't have to be rude, but you can, just like anything, that you can say, hey, the phone's breaking up, click, click, done, we're done here. Ding, it hung up on you, sorry.
Oops.
Yeah, it happens all the time. And on a third party where it's a collection company, that's even better because, like I said, once you notify them that you have representation, they are supposed to immediately stop calling you. But they tend to, again, they want to deal with you because they want to tap into your emotional commitment to the debt, that you owe them money. Please pay us. In fact, there's a company out there that one of our clients sent us this letter that they received. This goes back to a debt that's well over, I want to say, 12 years old. And they sent this client the debt saying, look, 12 years ago you owed a debt to such and such company for about $8,500. We have no legal right to collect this debt, but we are just basing this on the fact that you're a good hearted person and you'll do the right thing, and we would accept a $250 payment as settlement for this debt.
Oh, somebody told you wrong.
Well, the client called and said, well, so what should I do, Frank? I said, well, by law, they've stated very clearly that you have no obligation to this debt, that time has elapsed. And all they're basing it on is that, if, again, a good-hearted, good conscious person saying, well, I do owe the money and I'll feel better if I just pay them $250, and I can always say I settled it. And when you think about that, for them, they probably bought the debt in a portfolio of some crazy amount of minimum money, and they invested a 48-cent stamp into sending you this letter and request. And if they get a 10% return on that, that's pure profit, man. That is just cranking it out, killing it.
Yeah.
And they know most of it just gets crumbled up, thrown in the trash, but they get that one or two people, send them $250. That's free money.
Yeah.
So, they're pretty crafty people, and that's what we tell our clients is, keep in mind, you're dealing with professionals, and professionals from a standpoint, this is what they do all day, every day. So will they listen to your story? Will they have some empathy for you? Yeah, they're human beings, and they certainly should and will. But at the end of the day, and the last thing they always ask you at the end of the call, when are you planning on paying us? It's all about the money. That's all they're interested in. They can be as nice as anybody and develop some rapport, just like in, Adam, we've talked about, phone sales and telemarketing stuff.
Right.
That you build that rapport, you get them talking, and then you drop the hammer. Here's the deal. And that's what they're looking to do. And if they can get you to say, okay, here's my check number, you can take it out in 30 days. Again,
they're not waiting 30 days either.
Well, they're not waiting 30 days, and then in your head, again, you're thinking as a consumer that, okay, I just want them off the phones. I agreed to all this. I'll call and notify the bank to accept no payments from them. And the bank will ask you what's the amount, and you'll say it's $100. And again, they're crafty enough and smart enough, they'll send in a transaction for $99. The bank's looking for a $100 transaction, not a $99 transaction. And they will just work you. And at the end of the day, they can always say, you can call them and say, hey, you weren't supposed to do this, and they can always fall back on, do you owe the money, yes or no? Do you owe the money, yes or no? If you owe the money, shut up, pay the bill. Doesn't make it right, but that's what they want, and that's why they want to deal with you as a consumer, because at the end of the day, you have to acquiesce, put your head down, and feel bad and say, you're right, I do owe the money. Son of a gun, how did this happen? And what are they going to ask you next? When are you going to pay us again? And you're like,
never.
That's right. And you say never, and then they say, well, hey, we're going to sue you, and we'll get a judgment against you, and then we'll start garnishing your wages.
Okay.
And again, it's all dependent upon your level of fear, intimidation of how you respond to that. A business person or somebody that knows the laws can say, yeah, good for you. Let's try that. Mark always has a great answer for them when they say those things that, if you don't get us paid, we're going to sue you. He always loves to say, hey, good news. Went to 4 years of law school. Let's do that. And that's not the answer they expect to hear from somebody.
Crap.
Yeah, because now it's, oh, well. And the reality is that if they prove everything in the court of law that you owe the money and they show that you signed for it, you spent it, it's your debt, by all rights, they gotcha. But it's always about a fast nickel's better than a slow dime anytime. So that's why there's a willingness on their part to settle, is because they have an opportunity to get money now versus waiting over time. Because even if they garnish your wages, they can only garnish 25% of your income. And then you can also solicit to the court to get that reduced to 15% if you can prove a hardship to the court that they can only get 15%. So when you start doing the math over that, it may take them another 2 to 3 years to collect all that money. So if you can put in front of them part of that money in a lump sum, there's a good possibility they'll take that and move forward. Doesn't always work, but in most cases, we've had those opportunities where even when a client was having their wages garnished to the tune of $1,000 per pay period, we were able to negotiate that as a lump sum settlement. And instead of them getting all their money over 24 months, they accepted a settlement on a $22,000 debt of about $7,500 to get that taken care of right now, even though they've already proven and won and gotten the judgment and we're garnishing their wages. So it's always good to have some representation through that process, and we'd love to help you out with that. And you can reach us at our office at 602-889-7288 to answer any questions. We do provide a free consultation, and we can help people pretty much anywhere through the consultation and walk them through the process. And then as long as you're not being sued, we can certainly work on all your debt no matter where you're at. If you were to be sued, then we would have to then find an attorney in that state or who's licensed in that state to represent you. Good news for us is Arizona, California, and Colorado, we already have the ability to take care of that here locally. But finding an attorney, if we need to, is not too much of a problem. So keep that in mind. Thank you. All right. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and get Ruth hooked up with us. And
hello. Please state your name after the tone, and Google Voice will try to reach Ruth Carter.
Frank Lopo. Sweet.
What's happening? Is she there?
I don't know. Hello, Ruth? Anybody home?
I guess not.
Interesting.
Let's we'll have her call in.
Yeah, I can send her a text and see if we can get her.
So let me ask you this for a business while we're waiting for Ruth to call in. From a business side of things, because you see a lot of people, you know, you've oh, hold on a second. Oh, there she is.
Hello, Ruth.
Hello, this is Ruth.
Yes, Ruth. This is Frank Lopo with ESQ Resource Radio.
Hi.
You are on the air. So.
Excellent.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Going through the Hernandez Law Firm to kind of get us connected once again, but we've crossed paths over the past couple of years. So how's everything going?
Everything is going great. Staying busy and out of trouble. How about yourself?
That's always a good thing. I was going to give you an update. I know that you know Chris Harris fairly well, that she used to work with us. And she is, I don't know if she had ever updated you on her situation, but she's down in Belize living the life. She cashed out everything here and decided about 6 months ago to move down there, start working with a missionary group and kind of get the lay of the land. But her goal is to open up a bed and breakfast down there on the beach and be a great visiting spot for all of us to head to some point.
Oh, absolutely. I have not heard that. Now I got to make sure I put Belize on my travel schedule.
That's exactly right. And she's, every time I talk to her, she's always saying, come on down, it's great. And she's having a great time. So just want to give you an update on that. But I really appreciate the fact that you joined us. And I know we wanted to kind of introduce, you to the audience, and then also just kind of give us an overview of your firm and areas of practice, and then we'll get into some of the specifics regarding the social media law and then staying out of trouble online as we move forward.
Okay, well, my name is Ruth Carter. I own Carter Law Firm in Phoenix, and my practice focuses on business formation, contracts, intellectual property, social media law, and flash mob law.
Excellent, excellent, and that's always, as you list that last one, the flash mob. That's always a pretty interesting topical conversation, I'm sure, for people.
Oh yes, everyone wants to know what that is and how do I really get clients. And yes, I actually do work with people who organize flash mobs, those unexpected public performances, whether it's dancing or zombies or a Living Where's Waldo game or whatever, and making sure that when they do what they do, that they're not setting themselves up to get sued or arrested after the fact.
Right. And until someone like you gets involved in that, just one of those things that you don't ever think. But when you say that, it makes a lot of sense. That should be something that I probably make sure I'm covered for, or at least am not exposed from a liability standpoint with all of this, because I'm the organizer or something like that. So good.
Exactly.
Well, why don't you tell us, from the social media standpoint, what are some of the areas that people have the most concern, or some of their frequently asked questions of you in respect to social media? Because I know it becomes one of those things to where employees are looking at it as looking at prospective employees, and all the information that you have out there, certainly sounds fun and is fun, and they're great pictures, but when potential employers looking at it, it doesn't always represent who you want them to see, right?
Yes, exactly. I've been involved in social media pretty heavily since 2009. I'm on most of the major social media platforms. I write blogs. I've also written a book called The Legal Side of Blogging, How Not to Get Sued, Fired, Arrested, or Killed, because I wanted to know how far can you push the envelope before you've crossed the line and getting into trouble. And it's interesting to see what people are searching for in terms of their social media questions. I get a ton of questions about pictures. Particularly, people don't always understand that just because they are in a photograph, it doesn't mean that they get to control it.
Right.
So usually it's the person who took the photo who owns the copyright in it, and so they are the ones that get to control where that image is posted. Generally, there are some exceptions to that rule, but I do get that question a lot. I get a lot of people asking about, can my employer tell me who to be friends with? Can my employer make me delete posts? Can they make me be on social media? Which is always an interesting question. And of course, I like to tell people that to assume that everything you post online is going to be seen by 4 people: your best friend, your worst enemy, your boss, and your mother.
No,
if you don't want one of those people to see what you're thinking about posting, don't put it out there, because you never know when a post is going to go viral. And so you should treat every post as if it's going to end up on the front page of the newspaper or a billboard.
Right. Well, yeah, because the mother one's the deal breakers, because that's just like, man, my mom wouldn't believe that. But that's interesting, and that's sage advice, just from the standpoint of those are the people that would be most influenced by those things, and if you know the answer to that question, it becomes pretty easy to make the right choice, for sure, from that standpoint.
Right.
But none of us are carrying around a pocket full of waivers when somebody takes a picture of us to make sure they sign off on it and those kind of things, and we just don't operate that way, thinking it's going to be a problem. But as it gets out there, then it, just like you said, it can go viral in an instant, and didn't mean it to, and now you have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. Quite embarrassing for a lot of folks, and I know in the political arena it seems to be just a continual parade of people that you just can't believe that's what they were thinking when they did something that foolish, but they do it.
Right. I think a lot of us are very grateful that we didn't have social media when we were in high school, or even in our early collegiate years for me. And so all the stupid things that we did, there typically isn't documentation of it. Whereas now, if you're in your early 20s, not only is it probably documented by multiple people, you may have been the person who put it out there,
right,
not realizing that, hey, 3 years from now, when you're looking for a job, that picture of you doing a keg stand or, doing something foolish could be the reason that you don't get a job.
Right. Or hopefully in some cases the reason you did get the job.
Well, there's that too. It can't work in your favor. But, yeah, in terms of the amount of privacy, what we think of what goes on in our private lives, a lot of that is now broadcasted, on the internet, and so even though you still have some level of privacy, you're making it much more accessible to everybody else to see what you do in your personal time.
Right, and you're right, and I get that just from a standpoint of what you put out there, and you're thinking just I put it out there and all my friends will see it and that's the end of it. But again, as the potential employer, your enemy, and other people look at that, now it just somebody wants to comment on it, and it gets posted somewhere, and now you got to deal with it from that standpoint.
Ruth, I have a question. Excuse me. The question that I have is, what happened with? Is this kind of like the Big Brother thing that's going on nowadays with social media? And let's say your picture gets out there. You see a lot of these celebrities nowadays, like, somebody hacked into my computer and posted pictures. Those pictures were stolen, or this, that, and the other thing that was in the privacy of my own home. How does something like that? What are the rules behind something like that? I mean, do they launch a big investigation to see, what happens then, or how does that work exactly?
I think it depends on the situation. If it is like what happened recently with all the celebrity nude photos getting out, where it looks like the system was hacked, I think that we should be looking at who were the perpetrators, because just owning a photo in and of itself, I don't think is a problem, even if it's a personal, intimate photo. That's, my personal perspective. So if you've taken the steps to try to protect your privacy, the fact that somebody else hacked into it, which would be the same as if somebody broke into your home and, stole a paper photo, I think we should look at, who the perpetrator was, point the finger at them, and look at the service that was supposed to be protecting your security. And if they have some kind of breach, it's up to them to protect it. On the other hand, I tell people, if you do something like take intimate photos, that one, do it on your own device, so that way it's under your control, and so you control where it's, to a degree you control where it's stored. And then never let that device out of your direct control. There was a situation recently where a teacher's intimate photos got out, and at first it sounded like kind of a hacking case, and then I heard the whole story. And the situation was she was being generous to her students and letting them use her phone when they needed to contact their families, which is a very nice thing to do. Unfortunately, her photos were also on her phone, so she basically put it in her students' hands, and then she really had no recourse. If the was it wrong for any student to send those out? Yes, but I also look at her and like, hey, you should have known better than to put it on your phone and then give your phone to a 13-year-old child.
Right. Wow. But that's the, just like you said, as you allow somebody else to control that environment, and a 13-year-old kid can quickly, go through your phone, certainly quicker than a 55-year-old man, and thinking, oh, here's what's Miss Smith have, and then all of a sudden you're shocked, and here you go, and you send them out, and your world's coming to a crashing end. That's pretty scary, but.
Right. You have to take reasonable steps to protect your privacy if you want something to remain private.
Right. Well, and then just like I said, having a device and having it protected from viruses and hacking and things like that, there's some responsibility there if somebody gets into that and can break through that. I get all that, but I guess handing somebody that device, and so having a camera on your phone isn't always the best thing to have.
It's like you're asking for trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If you don't have passwords on your private information and you let a 13-year-old kid play with your phone,
yeah,
well, you can all see where that's going to go.
Bad things can happen, no doubt. Oh, that is just scary. But great. Well, other areas of staying out of trouble online. What other suggestions, or what are the top 5 things that you can recommend to folks to kind of manage that the best they can? One being, having password protection, and then also to having control of the devices, correct?
Yes, having control of your devices, also protecting the password of your Wi-Fi. If you are, your Wi-Fi at home, don't have it open where anybody can tap into it. Same thing is if you're using public Wi-Fi at your coffee shop or library, that's not the place to be doing your banking.
Right. Well, we're all seemingly our own worst enemy in some of this. That convenience, and we always have that "it's not going to happen to me" situation, but every day you hear those horror stories of it happening, and I guess one protection is not having anything for anybody to steal. Makes it a lot easier, but you never know.
Right.
Any other areas that the password and the Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, keeping control of the device?
The one thing I say all the time is think before you post. Because once something goes out there, you can never fully take it back. And that applies even if you are somebody who posts anonymously. We had a situation recently here in Arizona where somebody who was running for office was posting online under a pseudonym. And he was saying some, what I would say are discriminatory and racist things, and he was unmasked. And he ended up losing his primary. And I think that was in part because people were upset by what he was posting.
Right.
And I bet at the time he thought that he was getting away with it because he was using a fake name. But even if you are using a fake name or think you're being anonymous or using a pseudonym, there's always the risk that you could be unmasked and you have to own it. Or if it's something like your personal Facebook page and you think only your friends and family are seeing what you're posting, or you're having a bad day and you're ranting, and what seemed perfectly logical when you were angry or upset, 24 hours from now or 2 years from now may look very bad for you, but you'll still be forced to own what you said.
Right. Well, and just like you said, so you post on there, my boss is a raging jerk, alcoholic, XYZ, and then next day you're in that boss's office explaining yourself.
Or you're cleaning out your desk because you just got fired.
Right. And then it was one of those just heat of the moments, got pissed off because he said I had to work this weekend or something. And again, I truly believe we're our own worst enemy in those things, that we put it out there, and I know dealing with it, just like in text messages, it's always that, what's always left out of that is the emotion of it. So what you're thinking was a very sarcastic statement, nobody else got, but because you can't write sarcastically, you can say things, and people can see it when they see you in person, that you're obviously being sarcastic, but when you write it down, it's out there, and like they say, the internet's forever.
Right.
And and I know those. Go ahead.
Yep.
No,
there's no facial expression. There's no tone. There's none of that with the internet. With just your words. And so when it comes to the law, we care about what you said, not what you meant. And so that's when you get into situations where, I know a person who made a blog post and was sued for defamation in order to pay someone $2.5 million. And I know another situation where there was a 18-year-old, let's call him a kid, who made a post that it was a statement about something about like shooting children, and then followed it with J/K, meaning,
right.
Just kidding. He still got arrested for making threats.
Right.
So it's not what you meant, it's what you actually said that gets you in trouble.
Right. And then even if you put that JK on there, nobody wants to be that person saying, gosh, it was all over his Facebook posting that he was going to do this. Didn't somebody stop him, type of thing. So
right.
Everybody gets involved in that. So Ruth, why don't you give out your contact information, your phone number, website, and any other information. So if anybody has a concern or a thought or has some more questions for you, they can certainly contact you.
Absolutely. You can find me at ruth@carterlawaz.com, my email. My phone number is 602-644-1701. And if you're looking to connect with me on social media, I recommend you find me on Twitter at rbcarter.
Excellent, excellent. And then with the social media or online stuff, what about these companies that do their reputation protection? Is there validity to that, or are you knowledgeable in those areas as far as people, once they get something posted negatively about them, how they get that moved down the process?
Well, what I suspect happens in those situations are people who aren't happy about what the results show if they Google their own name, and so they contact these companies who probably create content about you and use really good keywords, and so you have better search engine optimization, and so those positive posts about you will show up higher in the rankings and hopefully will push the ones that you don't like lower and preferably off page 1.
Right. Well, I think Adam went and checked his name online just now just to see what the world says about him. So, but that's all great information, and that's another one of those things where you continue to monitor that or check that out just to make sure the information out there is one, accurate, and it's as positive, or it's the message you want out there. Because I know a lot of times you don't necessarily have a problem with somebody that has a negative reaction to a blog or something you've put out there. It's certainly part of that dialogue and conversation, but you want it to always reflect a positive thought process for yourself, and as the internet grows and gets bigger and information gets out there, it's just ever fascinating with what's out there, because I know even now, I think if you punch your name up and then all of a sudden you get images of you, and then there's a bunch of images that aren't you, but somehow it's tied together. I don't know, all the thing that goes into that, but it's always interesting to see what's out there from an image standpoint on people.
Oh, yes. It is something to keep an eye on. I tell people, have a Google alert on your own name, so that way if there's ever a post about somebody with your name, you at least know about it, whether it's about you or someone with a similar name. And then periodically jump on the Google image search, see what pops up when you put your name in, just to be aware of what's out there. So if someone's looking for you, what are they going to see? And so you are prepared for that conversation if you have to have it.
Right. Excellent. Well, it's all been tremendous advice. I want to thank you for being a guest. We're about ready to wrap up here, and it's been a quick 30 minutes, as it always seems to go when we have a entertaining, informative guest that has a lot of information. And if you do have a need or some more questions regarding social media and social media law, I encourage you to contact Ruth. She's an expert. She's also an author in respect to these areas. And as I know, too, you do speaking engagements where you'll come in and talk to a group in respect to these things as well. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. I'm actually working on my schedule for my spring speaking engagements right now.
Excellent. You are very well prepared if you're working on your spring stuff now. Heck, I'm just finishing out the year stuff, so you're way ahead of the game. Good for you. Well, Ruth, I really appreciate you being on. If you need to contact Ruth, you can contact her at her phone number is 602-644-1701. Check her out at carterlawaz.com, or you can email her directly at ruth@carterlawaz.com, correct? And then your Twitter handle again?
Is at @RBCarter.
At @RBCarter, to catch her on Twitter. So, Ruth, I really want to thank you for being a guest on the show, and wish you all the best, and we would love to have you back again sometime.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be back anytime.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Are we off the air? Oh, okay. So just want to say, listen to ESQ Resource Radio next week. We're going to have, I'm putting together a guest, and we'll have it posted on the website probably Monday, Tuesday of next week, but we'll have a listen. Should be another informative show with a great guest.
You can also check out the show now on YouTube. Go to ESQ Resource Radio. That's ESQ Resource Radio on YouTube.
Thanks very much.